I'm all suited up this evening. I think we got everything working here. I don't know how this looks right now. I have no clue. I'll probably check it on YouTube actually. I'm trying out like a different setting on here. So, different resolution. There's a chance this. Oh my god. Of course, I'm signed out of YouTube now for no reason. Yes, get in there. Get all up in there. Sorry, I gotta log back in. View the channel. Okay, since I'm live, it's gonna be weird watching myself while also. That's okay. Yes, get it. There were just duplicate Travi in my existence for a second. That was weird. And I gotta check Rumble too. So I'm trying to stream on Rumble. Have not been able to tell so far if it's working on Rumble. I don't think that it is. Live, got nothing. Okay, we'll go here. Rumble not working, I don't think. Anyways, this is going to be an extremely quick show tonight because I'm tired. Let me pull up the chat here. We got some jokes, so we'll try to rip through some jokes here and then get to some stories. There's big news with the Epstein files today. It's pretty crazy. Probably not going to be as crazy as everyone thinks, but that's fine. Let's get the chat up. Anybody out there? Anybody there? Maybe some people. I can't tell. Anyone out there? Say what's up. I'm going to try to move the chat to a different spot too. Maybe if we put it... Oh gosh. Oh no, it can't be there. Oh, well, let's just keep it down here for now. That's good. Okay. That's weird. All right. Let's get it started. Live from a studio apartment, this is missed information. I know for a fact that was not sized correctly. It's like my intro graphics, but with the sides of my studio apartment showing. Okay, the House voted 427 to 1 to release the Epstein files. Yeah. Pictured here, the one no vote. I can't put my finger on it, but that guy looks awfully familiar. Doesn't he? Crazy. Maybe just my imagination. I don't know. Olivia Newsy. She's a news reporter, actually. No, she's an editor for Vanity Fair, and she's been accused by her ex-husband of having an affair with presidential candidate Mark Sanders when she was doing a news profile of him. This after she was accused of getting intimately involved with RFK while profiling him for a news story. Yeah. Apparently the only thing open during the government shutdown was her legs. So, everything else is closed. You gotta make do with what you can. There's so yeah, the the Epstein files are going to be released. Going to be some more delays, though. Looks like they're not going to be released immediately. It may take a few more months for them to be released, so they're getting pushed back a little bit. Even then, they may be redacted. That's because they're made by the same company that makes GTA 6. Yeah, Rockstar Games. I don't know if that'll be coming out anytime soon either. That was a real shit joke, but I'm tired. I made a graphic for it. All right, what do we got going on today? So, the biggest thing, the House. So Trump, I guess, got sick and tired of hearing about the Epstein files and calling for their release. He just went off on Marjorie Taylor Greene because she was harassed, and I'm telling him he needs to release the Epstein files, which I understand. I get that people want to see them. I've never been super involved in this story because I've never felt like we would ever see the Epstein files. you know, and I still don't think that we will. But in any case, Trump called for their release finally. The House voted on it today, passed. I think there was one holdout. It actually wasn't Bill Clinton. I forget his name, but it was. Oh, I think I have it on Grok here. Maybe let's see. Well, it's not really important, but his whole thing, he was basically one House member who was saying that he didn't want them to pass them to be released because he felt like that's going to put the victims in jeopardy. That was his whole thing. You know, is that there's victims who have not been named. There are people who are not implicated in any criminal investigation, but it may tie their names to it. So his whole thing was we have a well-established history of laws in this country, the way we go about doing these things, and this would kind of go against all that. So how'd you like to be the one guy who voted against releasing the Epstein files, by the way? That's a tough one. It literally was just him. Just one guy. Brutal. But yeah, so they were sent to the Senate. The Senate also passed it, so now it's going to be on Trump's desk. I guess the biggest thing about this, it seems like a big news story when you first hear about it. I think there's probably 0% chance that we learn anything significant or anything super new. Because if there were something really significant in these files that had not yet been released, I don't think that Trump would be so forthcoming in releasing them. You know, if there was some big national security concern that these were going to create, there's no chance that they would release it. And I guess even now, there are some built-in limitations to the bill that allows them to still, I guess they can kind of release it without really releasing the files. So only applies to unclassified DOJ files. So anything that's tied to an ongoing probe or like a criminal probe can stay sealed. So that's the first thing, right? And then recently, Trump asked the DOJ to start looking into Epstein's ties to certain significant figures, like Bill Clinton, actually, right? And some others. So if there are names in those files that are tied to people that Trump has already authorized or asked the DOJ to go investigate, they could redact all that information. Okay, so right out of the gate, there's a built-in mechanism for it not to have any bombshells, you know, not to implicate anyone new, right? There's victim privacy protections, which are strict, which makes sense. You would always want those in place, obviously. There's no need to know the names of the victims or anything like that. Again, Trump ordered the investigations recently. We've learned a lot already in recent releases. So we've had the 2024 court documents released, the 2025 revelations. This isn't about unsealing grand jury transcripts or anything like that. It's just about DOJ held investigative files from, I guess, Epstein's 2008 Florida case and the 2019 federal case. So long story short, this just sounds like a bunch of random, boring stuff that we probably already heard before. And I don't think we're going to get anything tomorrow. I think this is one of those things that's going to take several weeks to get certain drops on the files if we ever do see them. So, yeah, not as excited as probably some people are. There was some talk, Cernovich was pointing this out. Oh, let me bring this up, sorry. I got to pull up Twitter on here. Yep, that should work. Boom. It's probably the wrong size too. But this was Cernovich talking about, I guess Speaker Mike Johnson earlier in the day was claiming that the Epstein files can't be released unredacted because they contain intelligence agency material that falls under national security. He says it's dangerous to force the DOJ to declassify documents they didn't create, especially when they involve other agencies like the CIA or the NSA. So, and then he says that releasing the Epstein files unredacted would put national security at risk, which Cernovich correctly points out sounds like this is a damning admission that there was intelligence community, i.e. CIA, involvement with Epstein. For years there's been talk that he was a CIA asset, and that they were using him essentially to blackmail important figures, right? Or perhaps foreign nationals or foreign leaders. So kind of spooky that Mike Johnson...
sources and methods. It is incredibly dangerous to demand that officials or employees of the DOJ declassify materials that originated in other agencies, in intelligence agencies.
Yeah, so he's sort of hitting the nail on the head here, or hinting at something that probably he knows maybe he's saying a little bit too much. He came back later in the day, actually. I think I have the tweet here, because it was sent. So the bill passed the House. It was sent to the Senate, and apparently the Senate approved the bill and put it through really quickly. When Speaker Johnson felt like there were still some amendments that needed to be made to it. So he sort of panicked. Let me see if I could find it. Epstein, I guess drop. Yep. Right here. This kind of broke later this evening.
Is he seeing the bill without adding amendments or changing it?
I'm deeply disappointed in this outcome. I think I've been at the state dinner. I don't know. I was just told that Chuck Schumer rushed it to the floor and put it out there preemptively. It needed amendments. I just spoke to the president about that. We'll see what happens.
So do you think he may veto it? You say you spoke to the president?
I'm not saying that.
Is he supportive of it in its current form?
We both have concerns about it, so we'll see. I was standing there with
Interesting.
Are you frustrated in the majority leader? Are you upset with the majority leader?
So he seems to say there that both he and Trump have concerns about the bill in its current form without certain amendments. So I don't know specifically what he's talking about. Maybe it's just a procedural thing, but he seems to be hearkening back to his previous statement about making sure everything that needs to be redacted is redacted from it, right? And he doesn't seem too happy about it, He seems a little bit panicked there. So maybe we will see something interesting, but I highly doubt it. I think that they'll redact everything that they're going to redact before we get these things released in any case. Trump had a clash with an ABC reporter earlier today. You guys should check this out if you haven't seen it yet. Just an interesting... He was going hard at this reporter who was bothering him about the Epstein files. He's with the Saudi...
For Congress to release the Epstein files. Why not just do it now?
It's not the question that I mind. It's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter.
He's been going off on reporters recently, by the way. He just said that I guess he called one of them Little Piggy the other night, which reminiscent of, it's sort of coming full circle, right? Back to when he said that about Rosie. But in any case.
The way you ask these questions, you start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. You're going to psych it. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did. Andrew Weissman, I hear. All these guys were friends of his. You don't even talk about those people. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the $21 trillion that I talked about today. It's a hoax. Now, I just got a little report, and I put it in my pocket, of all the money that he's given to Democrats. He gave me none, zero, no money to me. But he gave money to Democrats. And
he sounds convincing, by the way, when he's saying these things.
People are wise to your hoax, and ABC's your company, your crappy company, is one of the perpetrators. And I'll tell you something.
So why not just sign it now?
I think the license should be taken away from ABC because your news.
I'm eating chocolate, by the way, right now. But I don't know how these reporters take these insults with like a straight face, you know? Like, she seems to be trying hard to hide her disgust, but they're sort of reporters, so they try to maintain their cool, but they just eat it sometimes.
It's so fake, and it's so wrong. And we have a great commissioner, the chairman, who should look at that, because I think when you come in and when you're 97% negative to Trump, and then Trump wins the election in a landslide, that means obviously your news is not credible, and you're not credible as a reporter. So I've answered your question. You should go and look at the Democrats who received money from Epstein, who spent their time. Larry Summers was with him all the time. That creep, the fund guy, was with him all the time. What's his name? Who? Reid Hoffman. I don't know Reid Hoffman, but I know he spends a lot of money on the radical left. Reid Hoffman, in my opinion, should be under investigation. He's a sleazebag. And those are the people, but they don't get any press, they don't get any news, and you're not after the radical left because you're a radical left network. But I think the way you ask a question with the anger and the meanness is terrible. You ought to go back and learn how to be a reporter. No more questions from you. Who else has a question?
No more questions from you. It's just funny. He does a really good job there of reframing the whole Epstein thing back at what he wants to talk about, which are the Democrat connections. Listing all those was pretty powerful during that little segment there. I mean, it sounds like that is a ton of connections. So, and he's got a great point. Why don't they ask about the Democrat connections there? Why are they always bothering him about the Epstein thing? The answer is obvious, but okay. I'm sure everyone's seen this, but here's him calling the reporter on the plane. Well, I'll play it.
What did he know with respect to Bill Clinton, with respect to the head of Harvard, with respect to all of those people that he knew, including J.P. Morgan Chase?
Sir,
Yeah,
if
Jennifer,
there's
go
nothing
ahead.
incriminating in the file, sir, why not acting as a...
Quiet, begin.
Brutal. He's the only person I know who could get away with that. Quiet, piggy. I mean, the way I read it too, it didn't seem to me to be like a comment on her physical appearance necessarily, just on her greed, kind of, and greedily asking the questions. But yeah, he's probably the only person who could get away with a comment like that. That was pretty wild the other night. So yeah, he's been going off on the press recently. It's sort of seeing some of the old Trump. It's like when Kobe, went through some lulls, and then all of a sudden he started having those like back-to-back 60-point games again. He's starting to get back into a hot streak here against the press. Other big stuff. So we learned yesterday, or at least it's alleged, that the Thomas Crooks, the would-be assassin of Trump, has ties to the furry community. All right. Now, this is obviously... Let me close this. This is... there was him. There was Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk's assassin, who is tied to the trans community. And then a whole litany. You can go online and see lists of recent mass shooters, school shooters, Aubrey Hale. I think there's like maybe 9 or 10 of them I saw on a list. I didn't save it, unfortunately, but it'll show you that there's like definitely a recent connection of these shooters having ties to trans ideology, furry ideology, gender identity stuff, things like that. So this was a big topic. Matt Walsh was talking about it. Who else? Benny Johnson from the Benny Johnson Show. He says that basically, I'll let him talk a little bit, but he says, here's the truth behind these trans shooters. They get consumed by porn and fetish worlds that twist their minds and crush their sense of self. which there is some truth to that, but I don't think that's the whole story. He says, this is where transgender ideology takes root. Inside, fantasy is completely disconnected from reality. Look at Crooks, look at Robinson. They lost themselves in extreme fetish communities, warped their identity, and became capable of real violence. Men, stay away from porn. It's a gateway to obsession, brokenness, anger, and destruction. It ruins your mind, your instincts, your life. Protect yourself. He does have some good points. You know, porn's probably, maybe in some cases, not the healthiest thing in the world. I do feel like without porn, we'd have a lot of angry incels. We might have more school shooters with no porn. Porn might be the only thing holding society together right now. So I would take a step back here, okay? I don't watch it myself. I'm just saying, a lot of incels out there who really rely on the porn, okay? So I would not strip that away to reduce these shootings. Seems like a bad idea. He does have an interesting point about the fetish worlds, because there is a sort of, what's that, like a role-playing game sort of mentality to it. Matt Walsh has something similar where I think he said the same thing, that it's from porn, didn't he? Let me pull up his statement. They're trying to sort of find reasons for the connection to trans. Matt Walsh says, here's the fact about these trans and non-binary killers and assassins. They all developed their gender identity from consuming hundreds of hours of porn. The gender stuff is the product of extreme nihilism and extreme perversion. A steady long-term diet of pornography turns anyone into a nihilist pervert. It's not a far leap to get from that to murderer. I don't know. I mean, to me, here's the thing. Mass shooters and assassins have existed. They predate the trans community, right? When I was a kid and you saw mass shooters in high schools or whatever, they weren't trans, they just used to be goth, right? So for me, the thing is, I don't know that it's necessarily, I don't think that every trans person is a bad person or a nihilist or a pervert or anything like that. I'm not one of those people. I think that it's sort of the reverse. It's sort of like causation or a correlation, right? I don't think it's the getting into porn that makes one trans, that makes one. I do think that there was I think that there are people who genuinely felt the need to be trans prior to, let's say, 2020. And I feel like around 2020, when the Democrat Party shifted from focusing on BLM as their victimhood group to focusing on trans people as their victimhood group, I think they made it really cool if you were, let's say, a leftist kind of outcast person who did not feel good in your own body. They made it really cool to be trans. Okay? So, being trans is a signal, let's say post 2020, if you're in that group that became trans after receiving some of that leftist programming. Being trans or associated with that or the furry community is a marker or a signal that that person is on the very fringes of radical leftist ideology. So I don't see it as a trans problem. I see it as a leftist ideology problem. And I see the radical leftist ideas as being the problems that lead to violence. The trans thing is incidental. It's just a marker for those people. Because if you think about it, that's one of the most extreme things you could do, is completely change your body, completely mutilate yourself, right? That means that they're so deep into this propaganda that they're willing to change everything about themselves to join this kind of venerated victimhood group. Because that's what Democrats did. It wasn't just like, again, back when I was a kid, if people were social outcasts, they didn't feel right in their bodies, they kind of associated as sort of goths, and that was like their social outcast group. Now it's trans. Now it's furries. Now that's like the cool little social outcast group that is very much a leftist thing, right? So again, I see it as causation versus correlation, and the cause appears to me to be radical leftist hatred and ideology that infects people and convinces them to go trans not because they're sick and perverted, but because they think it's going to raise their status amongst the people that they care about perceiving them. So that's the way I see it. The porn thing, conservatives go crazy about porn, which I understand. I actually don't watch porn anymore. Once in a blue moon, but pretty rarely. And I used to watch porn quite frequently, but I don't do that. I don't do the to myself, none of that. So I'm pretty straight with that stuff at this point. But I also, like, I don't see it as being some, like, huge corrupter of humanity. I've been a person that watches porn, and I've been a person that has not watched porn. And I don't feel like I'm any more noble or better performing person not watching porn. There's sort of benefits and costs to both things. And I do feel like there's a lot of incels out there who really do rely on it, so I wouldn't take it away. What are you going to do next? Get rid of the Starbucks baristas? The friggin'... Alright, so I'm pretty tired. I think that's it for the show tonight. And we'll meet up tomorrow, probably 9 p.m. I will live stream. And yeah, that's it for now. Hope you have a good